Hello, Laverne here, and thank you for joining me. May this video be a blessing to you, and may it honor and glorify God in His kingdom. In this video, I'm going to show how it is and why it is that atheism is a destructive force. That it is, in fact, even if it's true, is a misfire of evolution. Now, I say this because I'm going to be looking at the evolution of morality. And when we look specifically at the evolution of morality, what we will see is that atheism is a destructive force. It is a negative characteristic in mankind, and that if it's left unchecked, could be the cause of the destruction of the earth as we know it, or at least mankind. Now, in order to understand this, we need to establish some of the basics of evolution. Now, I know atheists are going to understand what I'm talking about, but I want to make sure that we are on the same page. So, for the purpose of understanding evolution, what it means to me is, I guess, getting to the very basics, and that is the survival of the fittest. Meaning that if a positive gene that gives us a positive characteristic, whether it be in a plant or an animal, that characteristic is going to be passed on through the next generation and the generations to follow. And if it's a positive attribute, then it's going to remain. And more of the species is going to have that positive attribute. Now, on the flip side, we have the possibility of a negative attribute through genes and so on, that a creature or a plant is born with a new but negative attribute that will hurt its survival. Well, basically, it's going to die out very quickly. And anytime that attribute is passed on to a new generation, that animal, that plant, will die out. So that's the basics of evolution. But we also need to consider the environment, for the environment will affect what attributes are going to be deemed positive or negative. And for this reason, we need to look at the environment of mankind, of the world that we were living in thousands of years ago. What are the conditions that our morality evolved in? What was the environment like? We must consider these things when we are looking at the evolution of man's morality. To ignore these things is to simply be ignorant, willfully ignorant of the facts. But people like Dawkins don't want to look at this. Hitchens and Harris and those people on YouTube who have made a name for themselves, they don't want to consider these things. But it must be looked at. And when we do, what we will see is that atheism, even if it's 100% true, is a misfire of evolution. And the reason is because it's so destructive. It is a negative attribute, a negative characteristic that could very well lead to the destruction of mankind and possibly the earth. Now, what we have to do is look at the history of man. Let's look at everything that we know through archaeological evidence and so on about man. We know that at one point he became aware of himself. He became conscious that he was an individual. And from that point, there were one of two paths that he could go. One is that he would believe that there is some kind of intelligent designer, that this is not the only world that we live in, that there's something else, that for whatever reason, even working on the assumption God is not real, he took this path, perhaps because he simply didn't want to acknowledge that this is the only life that he has. But even if this is the case, the other path, going the other way, is one of a belief that this is it. He doesn't make up, any imaginary God and so on. And he goes down this path of atheism, for lack of a better word. So we have people of some kind of faith, some believing in some kind of religion, and then we have people who are atheists. These are the only two possibilities. Now, of course, within the faith based system, there are a number of possibilities for what kind of God or gods and so on exist, who it is that created the universe. But it still is either an intelligent designer or no intelligent designer. Now, if we look at the history of man, what we see is that those people who were atheists died out. It was therefore a negative characteristic. It couldn't survive. Those people, however, who believed in an intelligent designer survived. Not only their belief system, but those people who believed in this. It is their morality that we now get our morality from. Since there are no cultures to speak of that gain any kind of prominence throughout the history of man, anywhere on the globe, it is reasonable then to assume that atheism is a negative characteristic because it did not survive at any point in human history. However, the belief in an intelligent designer, it has survived since as far back as we can go. Therefore, we have to acknowledge that for hundreds of generations, our morality has been shaped within this environment of the belief of an intelligent designer. Even though, assuming that atheism is correct, there was no actual intelligent designer, no God actually directing and guiding our morality, the fact still remains that our morality has evolved in the environment under the conditions that we believe there is an intelligent designer, and this has affected our morality. There can be no mistake about this. And so atheists who denounce religion of any kind, especially those who are militaristic, those who are militant and trying to put forth their belief system, saying things such as anyone who teaches their child religion is actually practicing a form of child abuse, mental, emotional, intellectual child abuse. And there are more and more atheists who are making this claim. More and more atheists are becoming very staunch and adamant in their belief that all religion is evil and must be done away with. Now, one of the things they use to support this notion and to try and push it is that they will point to certain things that have happened in history, atrocities being committed in the name of religion. But what they are doing is they are taking a small piece of a large puzzle. So they take a small piece and they try to blow it up as if this is the norm. And they try to blow this small piece up as if it's the entire picture, and it's absolutely false. It's what Dawkins does and the majority of atheists. The truth is very different, however. When we look at the earth today, the world as we know it, and where we are today, we are where we are today because of the evolution of our morality, and that evolution of our morality took place in the environment of a belief in an intelligent designer, in the belief of some kind of God or gods. So those people who are denouncing religion, saying that they are immoral, those atheists who are claiming to be more moral, that they have a higher standard of morality, you got to the point you are because of generations and generations of people who did believe in an intelligent designer. You have the ability to reject religion only because religion existed. Your morality comes from these people, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, your morality has evolved through this system, the system that you denounce, the system that you are trying to do away with. Now, let's look at what atheism has had to offer throughout the globe. As I've explained, it's virtually non-existent. It has died out, and therefore this is evidence that it is a negative characteristic, that it has a negative impact on the globe, on mankind. That's why it has died out. But now consider the fact that the reason it's alive today, why is it now growing and prospering? Well, it has to do with the fact that the environment has changed. When we look at those people who are born with a negative characteristic, a gene, an attribute that 500 years ago that they would have died from. Today, the environment has changed such that those people with a weak, or for lack of a better word, a weak attribute that 500 years ago they would have died from, today they are able to live, and they are passing those attributes on to successive generations. So the environment has changed in such a way that it allows people with these weak attributes to survive. The same is true of this idea of atheism. It is able to survive today because the environment has changed. And so this weak, destructive attribute that is atheism, and I'm talking about in regards to morality, it is now allowed to survive and spread. Now, having explained this through the concept or the perspective that God is not real, I'd like to consider the fact that He is real for the remainder of this video. Actually, before I do that, I want to finish my last thoughts, and that is that even if atheism is real, it still remains a misfire of evolution, and that it is a destructive attribute, a destructive force. This has been proven throughout history. It's being proven today, and I will actually include a couple links that talk about the fact that atheists, when it comes to suicide, make up a disproportionate number of people. The percentage of atheists who are committing suicide is higher than any other group of people. And by atheists in the study, it actually refers to them, people who are non-affiliated with any religion. I'm also going to include a link to an article where a person who gave up on religion, denounced religion, were atheists and went out and killed a number of people. We are seeing more and more of this kind of thing happening. So there is a destructive force within atheism. And this is why I say it is a misfire of evolution. Even if it's true, 100% true, it is still a misfire of evolution. Now let's consider the fact that it's not true, that God is real, that there is an intelligent designer. And in particular, I'm going to look at Christianity. Christianity tells us that from the time of Enoch, there would be a 6,000-year period, and at that 6,000-year period, there would be 1,000 years of rest. That this is in part why Genesis talks about creation being done in the way that it is, the 7 days. Well, we are living at that time period right now that Enoch also calls the great time of testing. Other scripture, other prophecy talks about this being the end days, and that there would be this time period we would come into of great testing. And we are at that point according to Christianity. And the reason atheism has been able to grow is because of the technology that is now available. We now have television, radio, and the internet, all passing information through the air. Well, coincidentally, Satan, thousands of years ago, was identified as being the prince of the air. This is the name that was given to him. This wasn't given to him because he was like a bird flying around, but rather because as prince of the air, he controls thoughts, and he controls communication through the air. And that's exactly what we see happening today. This is why atheism has been able to grow like it has. This negative force, this false teaching, this lie, the great lie of Satan, it is able to grow because the technology is available now for Satan to be using the air to affect minds on a by second basis across the globe, affecting billions of people. All right, as always, I look forward to comments and messages. Till next time, peace and blessings.